I have the Apple Watch Series 10 and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in satin black. Today I'm going to test how well they perform for fitness, lifestyle activities, their battery life, and what my thoughts are on these two watches. I'm about to run, 2 to 3 hours today, so we're going to stress test both of these watches. It is 10 in the morning here in New York City, and they're both charged to 100%. All their data is synced, it's connected, and it's ready to go. So let's get with this test. Part of running a marathon is training. So right now I'm going to take some carbs and electrolytes. But another big part of that training is I need to run, and I'm gonna run. I think I'm gonna try to run 20 miles, but at least 2 hours is what my coach said, Coach Parker. And if you're someone who owns a Garmin, it's like, oh, okay, that's easy. It makes sense. Garmin is a running watch. But a lot of things that people ask me is like, can I still run with my Apple Watch? Is the Apple Watch good enough? The Apple Watch Ultra, hands down, amazing. Could I spend half the money on an Apple Watch Series 10 and still get the same performance and really meet the basic requirements of what I need? Do I need some of the fancy features? Probably not. Depth gauge, water temperature sensor, yes, those are nice and cool on both watches, but all I need is a watch that's going to track my heart rate, my distance, my pacing, allows me to stop and start the workout, and that's pretty much it. So I think the biggest question is, will the Apple Watch Series 10 survive such a long run, and do I need to charge it to 100% before I go? This does have fast charging. I can get to 80% in 30 minutes, so that's one big upside on the Series 10 that the Ultra 2s don't have. So if you're like, all right, I need to go work out, you can put it on the charger, shower, prep. My prep takes like 20-30 minutes, especially for these long runs, and then I can have a fully juiced up watch. So now I'm going to take my electrolytes, do some stretching, but we'll talk about the sleep tracking and the sleep apnea notifications that both watches support, because I think that's pretty interesting since I slept with one of my watches last night. Now this is a similarity, which they all support sleep tracking. They support the new vitals, where you can see your daily vitals like your resting heart rate, respiratory rate, wrist temperature, blood oxygen if you're not in the US on the newest watches, and sleep duration. I wore my old Ultra 2 and that's why I was able to see that blood oxygen. And then they added a new breathing disturbances feature. So after 30 days of wearing this, it's going to give you a sleep apnea notification telling you if you think that you might have sleep apnea and if you should consult your doctor and get more details. So this comes on a software update on the Series 9, Series 10, and all of the Ultra 2s. I still haven't worn it enough to get the sleep apnea notification yet, but I'm excited to see what those results look like. But almost every night I do wear my watch and I go to bed, because for me the sleep duration is the most important. I want to see, am I sleeping enough or not? And it gives me trends over time, which is really valuable, because if I'm not sleeping enough, it's just a reminder to dedicate more time to focusing on sleep and dedicate less time on friends or working too much. Now those are the sleep tracking similarities. What are the differences? One of the biggest ones is size. If you look at the watches right here, the Ultra 2 is much bigger. The Series 10 is one of the smallest Apple Watches they've ever made. It's sleeker, it's thinner. So if you feel uncomfortable and it presses up against things, you might not want to wear the Ultra 2, whereas the Series 10 might be more comfortable to wear. One of the downsides is battery life. So the Series 10 here is just gonna have less battery life, so I might need to plug this into the charger. But with the fast charging, that can help. Put it on, sleep with it, wake up, put it back on the charger maybe for 20 minutes, and you get enough juice to go for 8 hours of your day. Whereas the Ultra 2, I can probably go an entire day and sleep with it the entire night and not have to worry about putting it on and off the charger. So battery life and size are probably the two biggest factors. If you think you're gonna be bothered by a big watch, it might be easier to sleep with the Series 10. Now, how are we gonna run this experiment? So what I've done is I've turned Bluetooth off on both watches, just so they're not like switching between connecting to my phone. It's gonna minimize the battery drain from the phone costs. Wi-Fi is on, so if we do enter my house or anywhere where I have connected to Wi-Fi, the watches should connect to Wi-Fi and be able to get iMessages or any other software updates. And Apple Pay is gonna work without Wi-Fi or internet connection. GPS and tracking my run is going to work without internet connection. I'm going to leave Wi-Fi on because I think it helps with GPS accuracy sometimes. Other than that, we're about 36 minutes since I took them off the charger. The Series 10 is at 98% and the Ultra is still at 100%. But once we start the run with active heart rate readings, GPS readings, that's where the battery drain is going to dramatically increase. So I want to see how much it decreases after we start running. I'm also wearing my Garmin Fenix 8 here on my wrist, so far enough away so it should not impact GPS signals. This will be connected to a chest heart rate strap. So we're going to compare the GPS signals of the Fenix 8 as well to the heart rate data from the chest strap to both of the watches too. One of the things I love about Garmin and Coros watches is when you start a run, you select it, and now it's going to show you a visual display in terms of, hey, I'm looking for GPS, external heart rate connected. That is also a nice visual that the Apple Watches don't do. But once GPS is locked, this is going to turn green. If I'm using the Series 10, let's say I go to workout and I tap my run that I'm doing today, outdoor run, it's not going to give me that. It's going to do a 3, 2, 1 countdown, and I have no idea if GPS is properly locked. So that's a big downside when I'm doing the workouts on the Series 10 versus on the Apple Watch Ultra 2. It has a feature where you can do precision start. So you need to turn this on in settings, but once I select my outdoor run, it's going to give me this GPS icon. I wait until GPS is locked, and then I can start the workout. So I wish the Series 10 just had that via software update and can use any button to just start the workout. but it doesn't support it. So personally for me, I think if you're running with friends, you're doing a race, it's hard to time that 3, 2, 1, or you start the workout and then you pause it, you wait till the race starts and then you hit go, which is not an ideal way and workflow when you're doing outdoor running, biking, and maybe outdoor swimming to get proper GPS signals, proper distance spacing data, and start stopping at the right times. Okay, ready to run? We're gonna warm up. We got both watches on. I'm gonna try to start in a place where there's a lot of tall buildings here. There's actually a bridge behind me as well. So that's just gonna make the GPS a bit harder. And then we're gonna run straight down this road along the bike path because I wanna see it. It might go jaggedy. So we'll review the GPS tracks and heart rate data in graphs at the end of this video if you wanna see that. So one of the biggest factors is price. The Series 10 starts at $399 and the Ultra 2 is $799. You add on watch bands, that can go up to $1,000. If you're upgrading the size of the Series 10, it can actually go closer to $500–600. So then that's when you enter the territory of, all right, maybe we're $200 off this Ultra 2. So these are things to think about, watch out. So one valuable thing about the Series 10 is it has a 1 Hz refresh rate. So that means you can see second-to-second updates, but that really only works when you're doing the always-on display and you're not doing a workout. So when I'm doing the workout, it's gonna switch back to the minute-by-minute updates. But as an everyday watch, if you wanna check the time, you want it to feel like a real watch, it's so nice. Like, I was like, this is the one reason I switched from the Ultra 2 to the Series 10. It just feels like a real watch. So the Series 10 is one of the smallest watches that Apple has ever made. And it's so thin, the bezels are thinner than the Ultra 2. The screen on the Series 10 is actually bigger and it feels like there's like no bezels. So one big factor is like running. I can get another data input on the screen on the Series 10, which is really nice versus the old watches. Now right now I have 5 data fields, which I can also do on the Ultra 2. Before you could only let it fit 4. So that's a big factor if you need more data on your watch. Honestly, distance pacing, heart rate, and time usually I think are the most that you need, but if you're some power user, it provides extra value because of that. So the screen brightness on the Ultra 2 is 3000 nits, which like just means nothing to some people. But essentially it means it gets brighter in the bright sunlight, so it's easier to read, whereas the Series 10 doesn't get as bright in simple terms. I think it's only 2000 nits. So that's one of the downsides, but I would honestly argue all Apple Watches, the modern ones, very bright, extremely easy to read and see. I've had no issues in bright sunlight, just like today. All right, we're about 2.5 miles in, but feeling okay. Training load. It's another update, software update that all the watches have gotten. So it's gonna be the same on the Series 10 and the Ultra. You just need to update your watch as well as any older watches that support it. And that has actually been helpful for me to understand, hey, I'm not training hard enough, especially for this New York City Marathon. I've been focused more on work stuff and running less. So there's moments where I get well above, but a lot more moments where I'm kind of just like right below. So it's a reminder that, hey, get your workouts done and stop skipping them. Are these like a blueberry? Or where's this one? What? Yeah, can I get one of those, please? Can you take Apple Pay? Thank you. Appreciate it. Gel, water, unlocked. Let's eat this and then keep running. My fear is this is gonna cause stomach issues. Oh, that's not enough. I put some electrolyte tablets in the water, and then my Garmin watch is currently at 5.66 miles, and the Ultra 2 is at 5.65. So literally 0.01 miles off. The Series 10 is 5.58, so it's about 0.07 off-ish from the other two watches. I've never seen the Ultra and the Garmin be so close to each other. That's impressive. The Series 10 is struggling a little behind. It would probably make me run a bit more miles, but 0.07 miles in a 5-mile distance is not that bad. All right, electrolytes are in here. I ate my snack. I'm gonna run. See you guys later. Double click to start. The one thing both of these new watches support with the software update and older watches is offline maps, but there's no integration of workout with maps. You have to switch between the two apps if you want to be able to navigate somewhere and be able to track your run. And that can be a bit frustrating, especially in a new area, but it is what it is. Second piece, also software hardware, is treadmill running. I get messages, people asking, hey, how do you make sure you get the most accurate treadmill data? Personally, I love using GymKit, but at my gym, they took the software away from the treadmills for some reason. Sometimes I find it's pretty rare now. I think brands are just like not putting money into it, which is a bit disappointing. But that's the best way to get direct access and data from the treadmill to the watch. The next best thing, because it's so variable, is a stride pod. And that's what I'm wearing on my left foot right now. And that just will get you much higher accuracy on the treadmill, as well as in places where you just don't have good GPS. You do have to use the Stride app on your Apple Watch and connect to the pod via Bluetooth. I wish there was native support for pods like the Garmin's do, but there isn't. So that's the way around it. Both of them support Bluetooth. They don't support ANT+, which is a bit more advanced. People who use bikes, heart rate monitors, and certain devices, they'll connect via ANT+ instead of Bluetooth. And Apple Watch just doesn't support that. So that's a general downside for both watches. We're 90 minutes in. The Series 10 is at 73% and the Ultra 2 at 87%. 15% difference battery retention, but they're both above 70% in an hour and a half of running of GPS and heart rate data. So that's pretty good. I think we'll definitely be above 50% at the end of this
3-hour run, I think. Update, tarps off. I forgot to put tape on my nipples, so I'm getting a little chafing. I'll take that off. And it's a nice day, so I'm gonna get some UV exposure. An hour and a half in, grabbed a quick little drink and carbs and electrolytes from the house, and feeling okay. I think I'm gonna speed it up the second half. Could I get a cheese Danish and a water, please? All right, thank you. Apple Pay, check. They didn't have the nipple water, so it's not ideal, but this will do for now. My second snack of the day. 1 hour left. I'm feeling okay, stomach's a little wonky. I've been going relatively easy pace, but I think we should try to crank it to 8:30s now. We're gonna have up and down hills here in Central Park. And remember the last time I did this, I have a video where I ran my first 20 miles. You should go watch that. I'll link it at the end. Mentally, so scared. Like, I didn't know if I could finish it. And then this time, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna eat properly. I'm not gonna drink properly. I'm not gonna bring anything. We're just gonna do it and figure it out. Confidence can drastically change how you run. So another big difference is speaker and microphone. So now with the new software update, you can actually play music podcasts out of both watches. The Ultra 2 is just gonna sound deeper. When it comes to the microphone, the Ultra 2 is gonna have 3 microphones to help noise cancellation, whereas the Series 10 is gonna use AI, and it's pretty good. They're actually very indistinguishable. Here's a quick demo.
So now we're gonna test the speaker on the Apple Watch Ultra 2 set in black. Here's what it sounds like. Now we're testing the Apple Watch Series 10. Okay, I'm calling Zach right now with loud New York City noises playing. And how does the audio sound from your end? I'm calling from the Apple Watch Ultra 2 watch.
You sound very clear. Can't even tell there's anything going on in the background.
This is the Series 10. It only has one microphone, but it uses AI to cancel out and do noise cancellation.
I don't hear any sirens now.
You hear the sirens now?
No, I don't. I don't hear sirens now.
Oh, really? So it's even better on the Series 10 for you?
Yeah, there's no sirens.
Wow. You hear the sirens now? Oh, really? So it's even better on the Series 10 for you?
There's just your voice.
Really? No background noise?
There's no background noise at all.
Alright, I'm gonna turn it up even louder.
A little bit of the siren now.
You hear a little bit of the siren. It's pretty loud. I can barely hear myself. But still, that's crazy impressive. Wow. And that is the microphone test on the Series 10 and Apple Watch Ultra 2.
And you can take phone calls if your phone's nearby, or if your phone's on Wi-Fi, like at a coffee shop or friend's house, and you want to do a FaceTime audio call. So that's what's nice. Or you can pay for the monthly cellular plan. Maybe I'll do phone calls, text messages, iMessage, wherever you have connection. It just drains battery so much faster. Depth gauge and water sensor. So they added a water sensor and a depth gauge to the Series 10 now. So you can go, I think, up to 20 feet, whereas the Ultra 2 is 100 feet. It's a nice to have, not a necessary. So we have the action button on the Ultra, and that lets you do like precision start, you know, pausing workouts. You can do with 2 buttons on the Series 10, and then 2 buttons also on the Ultra. But I think having that 3rd button allows you to do things without turning the screen a little bit more, which I do appreciate. It gets you closer to like the Coros and Garmin watches in terms of how you use it, the speed of actions. For me, honestly, the Ultra 2, battery life, and the action button precision start are the 2 biggest value adds, and one of the main reasons I can't leave that for the Series 10. So one thing I've seen on like DC Rank Maker, DesFit, and Rob the Quantified Scientist is they talk about how the size and weight of the watch can impact heart rate accuracy because it wobbles around and moves more. So because the Series 10 is smaller, thinner, less weight, that just makes it better and potentially more accurate for heart rate for most people. Whereas the Ultra 2 is heavier, it's gonna move around more. It's gonna make it harder for the algorithm to figure out where your heart rate is. 2.5 miles left. I have to maintain 8-minute pace to get there. All right, 20 miles complete. 20.01 on the Apple Watch Ultra, 19.84 on the Series 10. So if I was using this as my main device, I would have kept running another 0.2 miles. The Garmin got me 20.06, so they're 0.05 different on the multi-band watches. The SE, 3 hours, 19.84 miles. The 904 pace, whereas the Garmin gave me 857 and the Ultra gave me 859. Battery update, the Series 10 is at 48% and the Ultra 2 is at 73%. So you almost killed half the Series 10 battery on the 3-hour run and about, 25% on the Ultra 2 for a 3-hour run. 20 miles, just under 3 hours. I think I made it with like 20 seconds to spare. Make sure to follow me on Strava at Shervin. Let's go analyze the distance data and the heart rate data versus the chest strap and see how different these 2 watches are. Let's head into the studio. Now we're gonna dive deep into the heart rate and GPS data from both of the watches, as well as putting the Garmin stuff next to it just so we can see what that might be like. So one interesting thing I found with the heart rate was very surprising to me, which was something I had seen online, but now I got to see it on my own data. The blue is the Series 10, and then the orange is the Garmin with the heart rate strap, and the black is the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in satin black. Seems like the Series 10 needed some time to warm up
But overall, they're pretty good. They're 1-1. But we start to see some changes here where some things loop out. So like right over here, I jump in. The Apple Watch Ultra 2, somehow, right here, it decided to go a little bit higher than everybody else. But the Series 10 and the heart rate strap, 1-1. Over here, we got some bumps. Ultra 2 in black seem to have jumped away from the other two guys. Maybe he just didn't like them that much. Well, even right here, we zoom in. Near the end, something happened that was crazy. The Ultra 2 just jumped away from the other watches a little bit more often as we got really late into the workout. This is what, 2 hour 40 minutes in. Even here, the Series 10 hopped away a little bit once from the heart rate strap, but overall, it seemed like the Ultra 2 was the watch for most of the distance, especially at the end. Look, you can see the black topping out. So the biggest conclusion I came from that is the heart rate data on the Series 10 is technically more accurate, not because of the software, but because of the physical device and the strap. So I'm wearing the Sport Loop strap, which I can tighten as much as I want on my wrist, whereas on the Apple Watch Ultra 2, I'm wearing the titanium Milanese loop, which is going to potentially decrease accuracy because I can't get it as tight. And 2, it's heavier, it's bigger, and it's going to move around more when I'm running. So that's my guess as to why the Ultra 2 in black jumped off more than the Series 10. There was one point where both of them kind of jumped off, but for the most part, the Series 10 held on pretty strong while I was running for 3 hours compared to the heart rate strap. GPS data, next. Let's look at that. So, bright orange is the Garmin strap, blue is the Apple Watch Series 10, and black is the Apple Watch Ultra 2 in black. Let's expand. I'm allergic to bad GPS data, guys. So I ran 20 miles with 3 watches. A Series 10 on my left wrist, Garmin, good distance away on my left hand, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 on my right wrist. We did Central Park as well as the West Side Highway and a little bit of streets. We probably could have done more street testing, but I know one part of the East Side Highway, this is where it gets a bit confusing. We're under a bridge, the GPS data is never going to be as good, and for the most part, they all held pretty strong. You can tell they wavered, so that shows that they're like trying to figure it out, but they held pretty strong. They just kind of maintained that street area. Everywhere else that we ran, like they were all 1-1. If there's a good clear view of the skies, it seemed that all 3 watches were just all together. So we have the Garmin Fenix 8, which has multi-band GPS, and the Series 10, which does not have multi-band GPS, but it uses Apple Maps data to help smooth it out a little bit. The Series 10 did struggle. Yes, the heart rate data might have been better, but the GPS is where it struggled a bit. You can see right here, I don't know what happened in this section. There was nothing special here, but the Series 10 kind of jumped out of the sidewalk that I was on and into the street. As we run up the West Side Highway, they are on top of each other. Look at that. And then the Series 10, something happened here. We crossed the street right here, but the Series 10 said, hey, no, I am going to take a different route, and it jumped into some buildings. That was one little piece where it kind of lost sight of where it was. I don't know why that was here. There are buildings on this side, but on the left side, there's not as many. So I'm not sure what happened there. As we come up the West Side Highway, clean, so clean. Look at that. Oof, beautiful view of the skies. Then we ran through the streets to get to Central Park. Usually this can get messy for some of the watches, but they all held up very strong. It's this part right here where the buildings, I think, get taller. And all of them, you know, cut corners a little bit, but they seem to be pretty smooth-ish. They kind of got it. The Series 10 is the only watch that jumped away. Looks like right here the Series 10 jumped away from the other 2 watches. Maybe up here all 3 kind of scattered. But then once we got into Central Park, I think most of the watches stuck within the actual highway that I was in. I ran in this kind of sidewalk here. It looks like the Series 10 jumped out. It's on the opposite sides of the 2 watches, whereas the Ultra 2 and the Garmin stayed within their lane, kind of in the center. For some reason, the Series 10 is like on opposite sides of the 2 watches. But I would still argue that they all did really well. The level of precision that they have cutting around these corners. I'm in that street and they stayed within that street. Looks like the Apple Watch Ultra 2 satin black disconnected from the Garmin Fenix and the Series 10 during this part, and then they kind of come back together. They switch roles. Obviously I'm wearing this Ultra 2 on my right wrist and the other 2 watches on my left side, so that could also account for that major difference where the 2 watches on the left side are closer together. Here the Series 10 straight off a little bit. I think when I'm turning, maybe it's the trees, I seem to have jumped away from the other guys. I did a loop-de-loop here. It looks like the Ultra 2 is the only one that picked it up. I was running with my water bottle and the piece fell off and I couldn't leave trash on the floor, so I turned around and I grabbed my trash and I went back. So most of them kind of got like a turn, whereas the Ultra 2 is the only one that actually got the loop-de-loop. GPS track, Series 10 is falling into the trees a bit, whereas the other 2 stay on the street when we're on this side. So I would argue Ultra 2, Garmin Fenix 8, great, A+ GPS tracks, and the Series 10 is like a B+. It's good enough, The distance was definitely shorter, like we noticed, but it's not always easy, especially in a place where you have tall buildings. Back to you, Shervin. In conclusion, which watch do I think is best? For $399 on the base Series 10, which goes up to almost $500-$600 depending on the variation of size and cellular, not cellular, compared to the $799 Ultra 2 and maybe $899 if you get the titanium Milanese loop, it's really hard to say that you should get the Ultra 2. One, the heart rate tracking just seemed to be better on the Series 10 with this strap versus the Ultra 2 with this strap. Two, the GPS accuracy, yes, it was off, but I'm not sure how important or critical that is to most people. If you're training for a marathon and you need to just track your distance and pacing and get good enough data and you don't live in a major city, it's probably good enough for you. And then the battery life. It is 5 o'clock in the evening and my Series 10 is now at 27% and the Ultra 2 is at 61. So I probably have to put this Series 10 on the charger before I go grab dinner later this evening. Whereas the Ultra 2, I could probably wear this and go to bed with it tonight and wake up and charge it tomorrow morning. So depending on the amount of times that you want to place your watch on the charger, that could be a factor in terms of which watch you would pick. The phone calls and the AI noise cancellation seems to be slightly better on the Series 10 with 1 mic and using AI than 3 mics and not using AI. And the Series 10 has faster charging. It does 30 minutes to 80% versus 45 minutes to 80% on the Ultra 2. So my personal choice, I'm actually going to stick with the Ultra 2. Precision start, action button, those are important to me. And I can just plug in a heart rate strap via Bluetooth to get more accurate heart rate data. So that's the route I prefer. And just knowing I have slightly better GPS data that's closer to my Garmin watch. If you're kind of an everyday person, maybe you're training for your first marathon and you don't plan to train for marathons for many years to come, the Apple Watch Series 10 is a great watch. It can get you there and it also becomes a lifestyle watch. You can pay for things. You can get notifications for apps. You can track your sleep, use the Vitals app. There's so many things you can do with the Series 10 outside of fitness tracking where you might not need the Ultra 2. Whereas the Series 10, I would love it. If I was trying to save money, I'd probably go with that. I love the 1 Hz refresh rate on the screen, the better angles of being able to look at it as well. But I think it's just missing some of those critical components for outdoor fitness activities, which I really hope they add one day so they can compete with the budget options that Garmin and Coros provide. I'll have the watches linked down below if you do plan to buy them. My name is Shervin Shares. Follow me on all the socials, Instagram, Strava, at Shervin Shares. If you enjoyed this video, go watch my video where I tested the new titanium Milanese loop on the Apple Watch Ultra 2. It'll be linked right here. Peace.